Hey everyone, welcome back to another second stimulus package update. Today we're talking all about those EIP cards, for the 4 million people that are actually getting these sent in the mail. A bit of information on that. We also talk about student loans, and last but not least, a really cool work share program idea where it will allow people to come back to work at reduced hours but still collect unemployment. Check it out. Hey everyone, welcome back to another stimulus update. I'm Logan.
I'm Adine.
And we're going to go ahead and kick it on off with the EIP card. So if you remember, we talked about this a few weeks ago where what they're now essentially trying, and we don't know if it's because they're definitely 100% going to be using prepaid cards for whatever round 2 of stimulus is, or if they are just doing this because, but they've actually started, the IRS has actually started to mail out last week the 4 million prepaid debit cards. Now, there is one big problem with it. They are coming in this white plain envelope, exactly like what Adine's got, a white plain envelope. So it looks like it's one of these scams where they load you up with a prepaid card and it turns out to not be legit at all. So a lot of people are actually throwing them away. So if you get a white envelope, open it up and check it out. See if it's yours. It should have your name on it. Because if you throw it away, not only do you not have the card, you got to get a replacement card, and guess what? It costs $7.50 to get that replacement. So make sure that you are not throwing it away. Now, you get the card, and Adine had a great question. He said, well, what do you think would happen if the neighbor got it? On accident, they put it in the wrong mailbox. Well, you actually have to call and activate the card. So it's not good to go yet. You have to call, provide your name, your address in the last 6 digits of your social security number. So they're not messing around with this. Generally, they go for the last 4 digits. They're not messing around. So the last 6 digits are on the card. And on top of this, there's not actually, when they mail it to you, they don't say this is how much is on your card. Because remember, if you make 75 grand or less, you get the 1,200. But Adine, break down real quickly just the overview of what happens if you make more than the 75 grand.
Yeah, just a couple of things to add on these envelopes that come to you. They're going to have your name, like Logan said. The other thing that's going to be on there is going to say Money Network Cardholder Services. That's basically the processor that's handling this. And again, it looks fishy, it looks scammy. And a lot of times when you get credit card offers, they kind of come in a plain envelope with a random name on there. And that's probably what's causing some people to just throw them away. But make sure that you're opening that mail and checking it. But do know that the security is in place, that if it does get misplaced, or I know a lot of people move, so if it goes to a different address than you want it to go to, you do have the option of getting a request and getting a replacement card. Unfortunately, it is going to cost you the $750. Now to answer your question about what happens if you make more than $75,000, and that's the limit for single people, single filers. And what happens essentially is the amount of your economic impact payment decreases as you go and adjusted gross income from $75,000 to $99,000. Either based on your 2018 tax return or your 2019 if you've already filed it. So they use the most recent tax return. So if you're single and you make somewhere in between 75 and 99, you're not going to get the full 1,200. It's going to be less. They do have a schedule out there on IRS's website that you can kind of cross-reference based off your tax return. And the other thing that a lot of people have asked is, well, gee, I've already filed my 2019. It's more than my 2018 return. My income's higher in 2019 than it was in 18, but I'm making less now. And so the good thing, the way they've set these up is it's actually, the payments are advances on a tax credit that's going to be done on our 2020 taxes. So come around when we file our 2020 tax return next spring, if your income goes back down below the 75, you're going to get the difference as a credit on your tax return.
Nice. Okay. Beautifully said. So be on the lookout for that white envelope. You're going to have to get it all set up. And if you make above 75 grand and you're not positive how much is on the card, Unfortunately, they don't give you a piece of paper that says this is the amount. You actually have to go and find out for yourself. So moving on from that, we also have some new information, something that was proposed by Mitt Romney all about student loans. So we all know right now at the time of this recording, it's the end of May. And we have all these college kids that are coming out and they have all this debt. And in fact, on average, the average undergrad comes out with about $30,000 worth of debt. And they said about 3,000 people are defaulting on their student loans every single day. So Mitt Romney came forward and said, what if we just go ahead and not require any payments for 3 years and not accrue any interest in the meantime? So, Adine, how do you feel about something like this?
Yeah, again, the more ideas we're throwing out there, the more thoughts we can get, and we can kind of paste everything together and come to a common solution that's going to make both sides happy. Unfortunately, this is super political, and any sort of stimulus proposal out there seems to be very extreme on either side, to the point that the other side doesn't want to do it. Now, as it relates to student loans, something needs to happen. That is the single biggest drag on everybody's personal finances right now. And like you said, 3,000 people every single day default on student loans. That number is way higher than credit cards, way higher than mortgages, way higher than car payments. Even worse with student loans is you can't get them thrown out in bankruptcy court. So if you have a lot of student loans and you go into bankruptcy, you get rid of your credit card debt and your car payments, your student loans are still there. So a proposal like this, where we say, look, for 3 years, our new graduates can actually join adult life, figure out how to get a job. Right now it's very difficult, but we give them time to find a job, settle down, and hopefully save some money or even spend some money to stimulate the economy. And we're not going to accrue interest, and we're not going to make them make payments. I think it's a great idea initially. Ultimately, we still have to tackle the bigger issue of how much student debt everybody has and how difficult it is to get rid of it.
And it's interesting because right now, if we think about all these kids coming out of college, they've got debt, and all the companies, aside from like a handful of them, everybody seems to be kind of on like a hiring freeze. So all these positions that a lot of kids probably got internships for or co-ops or whatever, now, because all this stuff hit 2 months before everything, all the graduations happened, there's probably a lot of kids sitting at home that no longer have that position. And on top of that, they have this debt that's just building up because they're unable to pay it off. So I know this was a big thing with, like Bernie Sanders, is like his whole presidential platform was big around, eliminating all student debt and going that route. So it's not like this has been like a new topic that all of a sudden comes out because of this pandemic, really.
Yeah, now Bernie's been a big proponent of getting rid of it. I heard Joe Biden mentioning it as well. And now we have a Republican, Mitt Romney, coming out and saying, hey, this is an issue. Let's figure out how to deal with it. Again, I don't think that Romney's proposal of just delaying the payments is going to do much long term. I like the other proposals, like the part of the HEROES Act by Nancy Pelosi, where they're just going to forgive $10,000. That has a much bigger impact than saying, okay, well, we're just going to push it off 3 years, then you're still going to have to pay it down the road. So I think it's, again, more proposals. I wish they would just stop with it. I wish they would just come to the table, come up with a really good comprehensive package and get it passed rather than just keep coming up with ideas.
Yeah, it's a bit of a stalling tactic, but at the same time, we have the one from Senator Portman that came out and talked about the $450 incentive to go back to work. And that's one that I think a lot of the other Republicans weren't even thinking about or considering. And now that that's on the table because he threw it out there, I think that could be a pretty likely one moving forward, as Republicans are really focusing on it, getting everybody back to work. But speaking of, getting everybody back to work, Adine, we've had some interesting stuff come out about the PPP. So go ahead and lay it on us.
Yeah, an interesting concept that's been out there, but nobody's talking about it a whole lot. because it's a state-by-state decision to have this available. So some states, usually manufacturing states, have basically partnered with industry. So you see that lawmakers and industry leadership have come together for when we have these sort of economic adjustments, and they've come up with these things called work sharing programs. So instead of a company just going and laying off everybody or laying off a certain amount of their workforce and keeping the rest on full time, what these work sharing programs allow companies to do essentially is instead of laying anybody off, they keep their whole workforce but reduce everybody's hours. So if you ever watch the news and you hear airlines and the unions, car manufacturers and the unions, they're always arguing about, okay, well, we're going to go on strikes. The companies say, well, we're just going to lay you off. And so this is where it really came from, where they're saying, well, how about we keep everybody employed, but we reduce their hours. So obviously their income from employment goes down, but it still allows them to go on unemployment and collect some unemployment benefits. So to relate that to PPP here.
So that's a good little like in between of everything.
Yeah, it's where this relates to PPP is essentially we've been talking about how companies, especially retail restaurants, are having a hard time getting people back to work because people don't want to lose that $600 a week. So an idea with this work share program is that you can bring people back, but instead of at their regular hours, because you don't need everybody there full time, you can give them a reduced schedule. So then they're still eligible for unemployment. And yes, their state unemployment is going to go down to probably the minimum state unemployment benefits, but they get to keep the $600 pandemic unemployment assistance, and that's the key here.
I love it. So it really sounds like a win-win for everybody there. The businesses, the actual employees too. So that sounds like it'd be a hell of an idea. So kind of recapping everything is, first off, if you have that white envelope in the mail, Adine, show us that white envelope one more time. So we all got it. If you see one of these in the mail and it feels like there's a card in there, open it up, check it out, because the last thing that you want is to throw away. If you're one of those 4 million people that are still waiting on this, the last thing you want to do is actually throw that away. So make sure you go ahead and open it up. Second off, we have Mitt Romney stepping forward talking about potentially let's just say student loans, 3 years, you don't have to pay anything, no interest accrued. So solid idea on that one. And then last but not least is we have this work share program where it's actually a win-win for both the business, because they get to hire people back and use their PPP, and then also the employees, because now they don't have to totally give up all that unemployment when they're going back for a reduced amount of hours. So there you go. There's your big update for everything. And as always, make sure if you guys want to stay up to date with everything and stay totally in the know, because we break it all down in very layman's terms, you hit subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Have a good one.